name is Jim Lindsay. I am the Military Employee Relations Partner here with Southern New Hampshire University. And I'm excited that you're all here to join us to learn more about the different opportunities with the VBA, the Veterans Benefits Administration. So we'll give you folks an opportunity as we get towards the end of the presentation with our special guests from the VBA, Michelle and Doug. So I really appreciate that. I am also going to allow my colleagues that are here. I have a few here that are going to be with us tonight that will be moderating the chat box. So we've got a couple of them here. So I will encourage you all to ask your questions once we get to that point in time to turn your cameras on and come off mute, and I'll give you all an opportunity to get those questions out. We do have a good turnout here this evening, so if we don't get to your questions, I will follow up with Michelle and Doug afterwards so we can get those out there. So I know David Munn, I believe you're here with me right now, so please go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll go quickly through the chat and see who else is with us.
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Yes, I'm David Munn, and I'm a career advisor here, military career advisor here at SNHU. I work with the business vertical. I've been here since 2020 and really enjoy it. I just want to welcome our guest. I guess whoever else is here, Jim.
Yeah, I think Sean's here. Sean, come on off mute and introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Stovall. I'm a career advisor here. I advise students in the military students in the business vertical as well. And I'd just like to welcome everyone here.
I think Mr. Chapa, are you with us?
Yes.
Chapa, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, just give me 1 second here. On the appropriate background.
All right. Oh, I thought you were putting your Navy background up.
Yeah, I just been here on the military career advising team for about 7 years. This is what I went to school for, is to help military folk with their careers after the military. So it's a great opportunity to help everyone who is seeking career assistance and career advice. And we meet with great employers. It's nice to be here at the VBA today, and I'm glad you all attended. As you go through this, keep us in mind. The career team is here to support you with all the other stuff you might need. Reach out anytime. We're open Monday through Friday all year round.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Chapa. Thanks, Sean, and thank you, David. And folks, just as Alex said, if you do have any other questions, if you are looking for other additional career assistance, we have a team of 9 dedicated military career advisors to help you, with your career search and help you get prepared to meet with employers. So that being said, I'm going to just go through this slide quickly here. Access and accommodations are important to us here at Southern New Hampshire University, and your experience here at SNHU is important. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design and delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the following. Online students, you can reach out to the Online Accessibility Center by emailing oac@snhu.edu or by phone at 866-305-9430. Any campus students, please reach out to the Campus Accessibility Center by emailing cac@snhu.edu or by phone at 603-644-3118. And any Southern New Hampshire University staff and faculty, you can reach out to the Human Resources Office by emailing hr@snhu.edu. So at this point, I'd like to introduce you. There's a slide here with our special guest this evening with Michelle and Douglas from the Veterans Benefits Administration. So I will allow them to introduce themselves. So at this point, Michelle, I will give over the reins to you. So go right ahead. And thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Jim. Hi, my name is Michelle Alicio. I'm a national recruiter for VBA and a military spouse. I am based out of Lebanon, Pennsylvania, although I work remotely, and I'm happy to be here this evening to discuss some of our opportunities. With that being said, I'll pass it over to Doug to introduce himself.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you may be watching. I want to extend a thank you very much, Jim, and to your colleagues for hosting us here at Southern New Hampshire University. And on behalf of Human Capital Services at the Veterans Benefits Administration, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, I want to welcome you to this employer spotlight on the Veterans Benefits Administration. But before I go any further and introduce myself, I want to say thank you for your service. And that's to all the veterans, the service members, and military spouses that are joining us tonight and today for this information session. Thank you. We appreciate everything that you've done and everything that you continue to do. As Michelle alluded, I'm Douglas Miller, also part of the national recruitment team, and I work remotely as well, and I'm talking to you from Brooklyn, New York. So, Michelle, the next slide, please. So here's our agenda for today, and I am not one to read verbatim each and every slide of a PowerPoint. But I want to mention the mission of VA, talk about the values of VA, of I-CARE, and touch upon the PACT Act, the service lines of Veterans Benefits and VBA, the mission critical positions that we're looking to fill, as well as benefits of federal government employment overall, not just to VBA, but to federal government overall. And we will, as Jim has mentioned, we will definitely have ample time for questions at the end of this presentation. This mission of VA is something that Michelle, I, all of our colleagues, everyone holds dear, and this is really what motivates us each and every day. To fulfill President Lincoln's promise to care for those who have served in our nation's military, and for their families, caregivers, and survivors. This mission guides our work each and every day. Throughout VA, we have our core values of I-CARE. And again, this is interwoven throughout everything we do, internally on our teams, as well as externally to our different VBA clients and customers, as well as to veterans and their caregivers. Integrity. Everything we do, we're striving for the highest moral ground and professional standards, and to have that confidence and to have that trust that people will see us as being of utmost integrity. Commitment. We are here to serve veterans and their families and their caregivers and survivors. We're committed to this in all of our engagements, in all of our actions. And that goes hand in hand with advocacy. We are veteran-centric, everything, internally, externally, our processes, our conversations, it's all with veterans and survivors and caregivers and family members, first and foremost, paramount in our minds. Respect. We strive to treat everyone with respect that they deserve. And excellence. We are working to deliver excellent, not just customer service, but an excellent customer experience, to do everything with excellence. And if we falter on something, we're going to own up to it, we're going to admit it, and we're going to correct it and improve upon it for the next time. So these I-CARE values are embedded and go hand in hand with the mission of VA, and they're in everything that we do. Next slide, please. The PACT Act. I'm sure many folks, if not everyone on this call, is aware of the PACT Act. President Biden signed this into law in summer of 2022, the largest expansion of healthcare and benefits in VA history. And it acknowledges that a number of diseases, a number of health conditions now have presumptive causes based and traced back to Agent Orange and toxic exposures and burn pits and in different geographical locations. And with this law, with this largest expansion, veterans are now eligible to be applying for benefits that relate to these conditions and these illnesses that previous to were not eligible to apply for these benefits. And it is largely in response to this PACT Act that the national recruitment team that Michelle and I belong to, it's largely in response to this PACT Act being enacted that our own national recruitment team was formed and created as a newly stood up team to find and recruit and hire and retain people to work at Veterans Benefits Administration in response to the PACT Act in terms of disability claims processors in particular, which I'm going to talk about and share in a moment as far as our mission critical positions. Next slide, please. I would be remiss if I did not pause for a minute and make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to the organizational structure of VA and where does VBA, Veterans Benefits Administration, fits in. VA, think of VA as the large department that it is, but within the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, there are 3 organizations, there are 3 administrations. One of them is what most people recognize as the Veterans Health Administration, the VHA. Most people that I engage with, veterans and non-veterans actually, they associate VA equals VHA, but there's actually 2 other administrations, right? VA by far is the largest of the 3 administrations, over 400,000 people. And the VHA, those are the hospitals, those are your health centers, your medical centers. Though that's the administration, the agency that gets most of the notoriety and the publicity in the news, on LinkedIn, doing webinars, etc. Because that's where the hospitals and medical centers are. So that's the VHA, Health Administration. But there's also the second administration, right? There's the NCA, the National Cemetery Administration. So that second administration is responsible for maintaining national cemeteries and burials and honoring service members who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And then there's a third administration, and that's where Michelle and I come in, the Veterans Benefits Administration, the VBA. And as this slide shows, take away health and the hospitals and the medical centers, take away the cemeteries and memorials, everything else is under the auspices of the Veterans Benefits Administration, the VBA. And so that's the disability compensation and education and assisting military service members with transitioning back into civilian life and job training and the mortgages and the life insurance. So that's those are some of the service lines of Veterans Benefits Administration. And I wanted to pause and make sure that it's understood and it's clear, these three different agencies, administrations within the larger structure of VA. And so I alluded to it before. So here are some of the mission critical positions that Michelle, myself, our team, that we are right now tasked with recruiting and doing outreach for and bringing awareness to. And these are mission critical positions, again, in response to that PACT Act that I talked about a couple slides ago. The first position, it's a legal administrative specialist, an LAS. The name is a little bit of a misnomer because this is it's a position much more analogous to a customer service role. It is 100% remote position. It is a great deal of phone interaction with veterans and the public, answering questions, explaining what benefits and what rights does a veteran have, helping them sort of navigate what those next steps are. And as I said, it's a remote position. And the entry level is on the GS5 level, but it does have promotion potential to the GS7 and to the GS9. And the second position here is our VSR, Veteran Service Representative. And so this is the person that is going to engage with a veteran. He or she is going to have an interview with that veteran. It could be, as we're doing today, over the phone. It might be in person. This role, it's a hybrid role. So there's an expectation that if you are in a VSR position, you will go to the office once a week or twice a pay period, which is every 2 weeks. But this VSR position, that's that interface with a veteran, helping him or her to gather the medical documents that they need, gather relevant information, inputting all of the data into the system, making sure that their full disability claims package is complete and it's accurate and it's ready to go. And this position, the entry level is a GS7, but again, there's promotion potential to a GS9, to a GS10. And then if we go to the next slide, the third mission critical position that we're talking about right now is the RVSR, that rating veteran service representative. So this is the person who is now going to take that disability claims package from the VSR. And they're going to now start to analyze, and they're going to apply the rating schedule. And they're the ones who are going to do that ultimate adjudicating and decisioning and determining what that rating is to be. And they then in turn will forward that package back to the VSR with the decisions and what those next steps are and how to go about it. And if there is any appeals and the appeals process of that might be the case. This position, it enters at a GS9, but again, promotion potential to a 10, 11, 12. And though these three positions that I've just spoken of, the LAS, the VSR, and the RVSR, they all feed into the next. So there are people that started as an LAS, and after 52 weeks of being successful in that job and meeting all of the qualifications and requirements, they were promoted. They had the possibility and the opportunity to be promoted into the VSR. And then again, after 52 weeks of successful performance, when all the qualifications and performance requirements were met, they in turn were then able to be promoted into the RVSR. So there is tremendous and definite career progression even among these three roles. Next slide. So I want to switch gears slightly for a minute and just touch upon benefits of federal government employment. And obviously we're talking here, this listing are those tangible benefits. I'm not talking about sort of the intangibles of working for a mission-driven federal government agency and giving back to veterans who have served us. But there is healthcare and insurance. There's medical health insurance through the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program. There's life insurance, dental and vision insurance. There's also opportunities for flexible spending accounts, both for health and dependent care. As far as retirement benefits goes, these benefits, they really don't exist anymore in the private sector. I'm going to be perfectly honest. There's three different prongs to the federal retirement benefits program. The first is that Federal Employees Retirement System, FERS, which acts like an annuity. And then there's a thrift savings plan, which is analogous to the private sector 401k or the nonprofit world, the 403b. But there's a thrift savings plan, and the federal government matches up to that first 5%. And then there's also Social Security. So there's three different prongs, as I said, to retirement, which is really unheard of these days now. And some of the other benefits, there's the holidays, and there's annual leave, vacation time that you accrue, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, based on your length of tenure with federal government service. And there's also a separate sick leave that you accrue 4 hours per every 2-week pay period. And then there's FMLA leave rather. And there's leave sharing and court leave, disabled veteran leave. And this is not an all-inclusive list. This is just a sampling of some of those tangible benefits for federal government service, not just specifically VBA. Next slide. Thank you. Is actually our conclusion slide. We wanted to get to your questions and have that conversation as Jim has alluded to. So I'm going to stop talking for a moment, and if anybody has any questions, feel free.
Yep. Doug, thank you very much. What awesome presentation and so much wonderful and valuable information to share. I really appreciate that. So thank you all. I do see some hands coming up already. So folks, again, this is your opportunity to ask Doug and Michelle any specific questions that you may have, or general, anything that you may be wondering. So at this point, we're just going to go through. And again, I do see some hands up. So we're going to start. Doug, excuse me. Hold on one second. I need to just change my screen view here. Dale, go right ahead, sir. You can take yourself off mute and fire away.
How's that?
We can hear you just fine, sir.
Okay. Well, to let you know that I'm under the very old program, the CSRS program. And I've been through the programs. I know how Clinton killed the CSRS and wanted us to merge with over to the FERS. I said, I'm staying where I'm at. And I've already done my vocational training, and I've gotten my job at the St. Mary's Medical Center here in Reno as a HIM Tech too. So it works, people. It works when you get that bachelor's degree. And one of the things that helped me when I was in the LinkedIn section is that job scan is best to have your resume checked for any errors. And it worked. That's how I've been over there since July after my other job went defunct in May. So I like it, Jim. And so you wanted to see me. Here I am.
Well, thank you. So Dale, thank you. Thanks for sharing that your story there. Did you have any other specific questions for either Doug or Michelle?
Well, VBA had a person come over to my job site, and they asked how I was doing on it. I love it. I love the job, and for those that want to learn about VBA, they're there to help you. They're not there to cheat you out of anything.
Mr. Bush, I just want to say something to you, sir, because or in response, because it's important for this session, and what you said prompted me. It sparked, my mind here to mention that the key to your federal application is that federal resume. Okay. It is.
I tried to get that with the VA here, but they said they kept on turning me down. So
right, but but what you said, sir, prompted me, and I just want to share this statement out with the group that for any federal government employment and so Veterans Benefits Administration, whomever, the key, you want to focus your attention on that federal resume in USA Jobs.
Exactly.
If you haven't already, or if you don't, you need to use the USA Jobs Resume Builder. It will walk you through step by step what elements you need to put into your federal resume, how it needs to be crafted. We have a whole other session, on the federal resume and USA Jobs, but because, sir, you mentioned it, I would be remiss if I didn't throw this out there, that you want to use the resume builder in USA Jobs. You want to apply through, obviously, USA Jobs, but the federal resume is so different from that private sector resume. And HR specialists who are doing qualification reviews of applications, they are conditioned to be looking at federal resumes, that style, that format, for that information. So it behooves you to take the time and work through USA Jobs Resume Builder and create that resume through that tool. Don't use your private sector resume and upload that in lieu of. Don't do that. Do the resume builder through USA Jobs. That's my point on that one. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. That is correct. And they'll ask you for your last SF-51 and SF-15 and 501.
Whatever is on that job opportunity announcement, the job description, there's a section of required documents. So they will list out what is required and what is optional. So you're right, sir. It'll be there.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you for your service, and thank you for coming on in tonight.
You too.
So we're going to get to the next question here. We've got lots of hands up. So Nancy, go right ahead. And thanks for coming on in.
Yeah, hi, Jim. Thanks for having me today. Happy to be here. So everyone, I'm Nancy O'Brien. I'm up in New Hampshire, and I am going for my bachelor's degree in communication. I have 4 terms left, so I'm super psyched about that. and so I had a question about out of those 3 mission critical positions that you mentioned, is it possible to step into that VSR or the RVSR roles, or do you have to begin with 52 weeks as an LAS?
No, you can go in based off of what the qualifications are, and you don't have to be an LAS.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really great to know. Yeah, I work part-time at a community family and resource center doing supports, and I'm running for service officer at my local Legion. So if I could give back in this way, having a disability myself, that would be fantastic. So
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
do
Thank
have,
you.
yeah, no problem. We do have 56 regional offices throughout the country for the VSR and RVSR. Typically, there's 1 to 2 per state. I will be sending out some information after this that will list all of our locations that we have, as well as some other links and information on USA Jobs and through our VA careers.
Okay, that's wonderful. And I had one more quick question. I appreciate you bringing up the difference in the resume that is federal versus ones that are civilian, simplistic forms. Do you think it's beneficial to connect by LinkedIn? Is that helpful at all? Or what do you think about that?
With a hiring manager you're talking about?
In any capacity going for employment with the VBA?
So so I come from a mixture. So does Michelle, and she's smiling.
And private sector. I came from private sector.
Yeah, Michelle comes from the private sector. I come from a combination of private sector and federal government, but we're both been in this recruitment space for a while. The funny thing is many federal government folks are not on LinkedIn. You know what I mean?
Okay.
LinkedIn is much more, it's much more, just
sector.
utilized by private sector, whether it be corporate or nonprofit. Federal government, just a lot of federal government, they're just not involved, and they haven't gravitated to LinkedIn. And then certainly in some instances, in some agencies, another discussion, they're not allowed, they're forbidden to be on LinkedIn and social media for security reasons, et cetera, et cetera.
Understood.
Yeah, so I would say, definitely, LinkedIn as a tool to maybe, connect with Michelle, connect with myself to get some information about just, VBA in general, maybe, or federal government. But, I've utilized LinkedIn as a job seeker for federal government employment insofar as if I am able to find out the names of people that I'm going to be interviewing with. And again, depending on the agency, sometimes it's close to the vest and they're not going to give that info. Sometimes they might just put it in the email, or they might tell you if you reach out to them. I've used LinkedIn to just get a little intel and see if they're on LinkedIn. And if they are, I'm all excited just so I have a little background about who he or she is that I'm going to be speaking with and engaging with.
Right. That's
so
really
that's
helpful.
how I've used it. Yeah.
That's really helpful. And I thought of a third question. Would you rather me just let other people in, or go ahead and ask you now?
You're here. Go ahead, Nancy. Fire it out there.
I defer to Jim.
So, so I graduated high school over in Okinawa from Kubasaki High School. And part of my high school was I went to school from like 7:30, 11:30. Then I worked for the Marine Corps for junior and senior year. And I actually was a federal employee, but it wasn't GS. Does that, or can you direct me to anybody who might help me figure out, is there information I need to gather for my federal resume on USA Jobs, or should I just sort of let that go?
No, I would say put it in. It in. And again, it goes back to one of the nice differences, right? With a private sector resume, kind of the rule of thumb, 2 pages, no more than 3. And you know what I mean? And then on the flip side, federal resume, You'll see things, oh, a federal resume should be no more than like 3 to 5 pages. My federal, and I'm going to date myself, or I'm going to age myself. My federal resume, I think at this point now, it's about 18 or 19 pages, right? Just because I've been around the block a little bit, in private sector and federal government. But there really isn't that limitation other than some agencies, and VBA is not one of them. There are some agencies that will actually say, but again, it's in the job opportunity announcement, so you have to read it thoroughly before you apply to anything. Some agencies will say, but it'll state, we are only reading the first 5 pages of your resume. Like, for example, I know for a fact, Department of Homeland Security, USCIS, right, United States Citizenship Immigration Services, they will only read the first 5 pages, and they're pretty hardcore, and they say it up front, but you know it. But in answer to your specific question, I'm trying to weave in a bunch of other things to answer your question also. I would say include it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because experience is experience. Volunteer, internship, externship, your military service, it's experience. It's all valid.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And thanks for letting me ask 3 questions. I appreciate
I want
it.
to piggyback off that just a little bit based on some resume questions, because depending on the type of announcement, it could be a local VBA representative that's doing the qualifying. If it's a national announcement, it is going to be OPM, so using contractors. So the way that you want to word your resume is look at the job announcement, regardless of what it is, whether it's a VSR, VSR is what we want you to look at, but make sure you're looking at the specialized skills, because that is what these qualifiers are looking at to make sure that you are eligible to get referred. So you don't want to leave any room for interpretation for them, because they're not going to interpret it. If it doesn't specify exactly what they're looking for, they're going to make you ineligible. So although you do, I know there were a couple of pings about veteran preference and things like that. Yes, that can get you ahead, but you also need to make sure you're qualifying on those specialized skills as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Thanks for adding that. And folks, also, we've got our military career advising team that can assist you as you're putting your federal resume together. So we do have some more hands up here. We've got a handful of hands up, So Keandra, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly, but why don't you come on off mute and ask your question?
So actually, you got it 100% correct. I generally go by Jeanette, but thanks for talking to us and being here. I was curious. So in May, I finished my degree in business administration, but prior to that, I have more of a healthcare background. And as I was reading through the announcements, I know that on the GS page, it kind of explains to you how you can break down what GS level you would qualify for. And one of the main things that will, I guess, be a difference between you being able to be GS5 and GS7 if you have a degree is that specialized experience. Do you have any, I guess, feedback or knowledge about how I would be able to specifically understand if something is in the same realm of specialized experience? For example, prior to my degree, I am a certified medical assistant and phlebotomist. So I've worked in plasma centers and doctors' offices, from oncology to family practice. And they were very, I'd say, brief stints because we frequently moved. I did that in the beginning of our marriage, and we ended up moving we've been together 6 times and we've moved 4 times already. So it was way more frequently than we intended. And now I am finishing up a project management internship in a mental health practice. And so to me, all of those things are medically related, and that would almost seem like specialized experience, but I do know that they're not all administrative. And so I don't know if that would make them not the same.
Right. I mean, my response is going to echo what Michelle just alluded to. To read that job opportunity announcement, the JOA, that job description, and if it's aligned to just include all of the details and don't leave room for an HR specialist doing qualifications for interpretation, right? So if it's, and that doesn't mean to, obviously I'm not advocating lying on your federal resume or anything like that, but spell it out, you know what I mean? Put all of the details, even if you think you're sort of going over the top and, oh my God, this is like, I'm spelling it out too much. No, there's not an instance of, you know what I mean? Because don't leave room for interpretation. Don't leave room for someone doing those qual reviews to either, to understand, to misunderstand it, or to puzzle over it, or to just be, kind of giving up. Well, I don't understand, forget it, I'm moving on because I don't, you know what I mean? So like, if it is in line, spell it out, and also use some of the verbiage that's in the JOA, right? If it matches up again to that particular, specialized experience for that particular role. So that's sort of my suggestion, is how I would do that.
And then I just have one more question, and that's, as you go through the job board, there are all types of announcements about jobs, like some are repositories, some are like open. Is there any job posting or type of announcement that you would give priority to in terms of applying? Because sometimes I look and I'm like, well, that job's been open for like a year. Are they even paying attention to the resumes coming in?
The roles that we're hiring for right now are open at most a month, I want to say, Doug.
Yeah.
USA Jobs that I typed in, like VBA, the roles that we just discussed weren't on USA Jobs.
It just closed yesterday. Right. Yeah, it was already, unfortunately. So these roles are going to be open again. We don't have an exact date, but the way that we are being told is beginning of February, January.
Yeah.
To be on the lookout for it. You can put on job alerts as well on USA Jobs so that when it does become open, you'll get notified of it. But there's also other avenues, as using like a non-comp authority. We don't have mailboxes for every single one of our regional offices, but there are certain offices. I know Boston, Manchester, and White River Junction offices have a non-comp mailbox that you can send your resumes to, which I'm actually going to include that in my notification to you guys tomorrow with a couple of attachments. I have a list of, because Doug and I are technically Northeast District, but our team is nationwide. We have other recruiters that handle the other districts that have non-comp mailboxes. And so I'll send that out to you tomorrow.
Right. I would and let me just add a couple things here on top of that from Michelle, which she just mentioned, that Michelle and I, as part of the national recruitment team, so our mandate is about those mission critical roles, doing national, regional outreach, marketing, recruiting, on a big scale, right? That type of thing. So we, number one, are not doing any qualification reviews of any applications that's not our role, right? We don't do that. I can just speak of it because I know how it works a little bit, right? And those national announcements that Michelle just mentioned, that one closed yesterday, those are coming out of OPM. So we don't ever really know definitively exactly when they're going to come out, which is why Michelle said like the end of January, beginning of February. However, to that end, and I was happy to see someone put it in the chat, and I was going to mention it anyway, the key right now is to, number one, get that federal resume in order, get it created, get it ready to rock and roll, get ready to use it, right? Using that resume builder that I alluded to, utilizing Tap Into Your Career folks here at Southern New Hampshire, right? If you need assistance in helping to create that federal resume. But number one, get that federal resume ready to rock and roll now, number one. And number two, Michelle mentioned it in passing, go on to USA Jobs if you haven't already. create your profile, create your account, and set up daily job email alerts for however you want to set them up, right? And the more, and you can put in, you can, I think, have up to 10 different job alert emails. You can set them up daily to go into your inbox or weekly. Mine are daily. I strongly suggest you want daily because sometimes there are positions that open and they close in 5 days. So if you got the week alert, you're going to snooze and you're going to lose because you won't even see it in time, perhaps.
Especially the LAS. The LAS role is only open a few days because they get thousands of applicants.
So you, right.
I do want to mention that there will be some military spouse events for that LAS role coming up beginning of the year. There will be more advertising going out about that. I just can't disclose just yet, but it's going to be at a couple of our bases, which I will send out later as well.
But set those daily job alerts. And when you're setting them up, the last thing I'll say about this is you can put different parameters, but remember, the more parameters you put, you are shrinking and minimizing the opportunities. So you don't want to put too many parameters on your alert because then the search will not yield as great a pool of options as if you leave. Does that make sense? Like if you put VBA, you're going to get everything in VBA, right? If I do VBA New York State, I'm going to get everything for VBA, whether it be here in my New York City, whether it be way up north in Rochester, New York, or Buffalo, whatever, right? But if I limit it, the more parameters, the more limiting it is. So those are my 2 suggestions, as far as on this point. Get your federal resume ready to rock and roll and set up those daily job alerts with some good parameters, but not too restrictive of parameters.
Okay. You're still muted.
Thank you,
You're
Doug.
muted, sir.
I'm sitting there rambling. Maybe that's why nobody heard me a minute ago. So we have 5 more questions. I want to try to get to these before we run out of time here. So Teresa, go right ahead.
Hi, how are y'all?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for joining us.
I was a human resources specialist in the military for for 12 years, but I was a GS for 8 years. And I just got my degree this past weekend. I graduated for business.
Congrats.
And I was interested in like the veteran service representative and the legal admin specialist. How do I go about getting those jobs? And like you said, one day in an office, like where would the office be? I'm in North Carolina.
North Carolina, we have Winston-Salem. Are you near Winston-Salem?
No, I'm in up near the Virginia border in Roanoke Rapids.
Okay.
I go to the Durham VA. That's the closest.
Gotcha. Yeah, we unfortunately don't have a regional office near there, but the LAS role is remote. So once that announcement became open, you could apply to that.
Okay. And like I was a GS9. Would I still start out like the lowest GS still, or do they go by like my federal time?
It would be based on your experience.
Okay. I didn't know. All right. And you said that will be coming open the beginning of February or so?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what the plan is. Yes.
All right.
But again, the same comment. Get that federal resume ready, get those daily job alerts set up, and then you'll be ready when they do open up to apply.
Okay. And the remote job, so it would be like every day and but just remote on the computer and answering the phones. Because I was actually I was the human resource specialist. I did all the benefits and everything that y'all listed before in my job. That's what I was doing. And I didn't know like if that's what it did or
Yeah, these are remote positions. They're remote positions. So, you know, you could be sort of affiliated, so to speak, with, you know, perhaps a call center, that's located, in Salt Lake City, and you yourself could be living in Virginia. But as long as you're willing to adjust your time, your duty time to fit into that Salt Lake City, yes, 100% remote, correct.
And they are Monday through Friday.
Full time.
All right. Thank y'all so much for this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Great question there. So Marlena, go right ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. Quick question. I think you guys answered majority of the questions, but one question that I had was as a military spouse, if you get hired for a VSR position, I applied to the one that just closed yesterday, Michelle. So hopefully I hear something. But my question was, how does that work when we have PCS orders? My husband is still active, so we are constantly PCSing.
Good question. So I think, do you know when you're...
VSR, so as just getting hired, hopefully, does that take into consideration if I'm a spouse and we PCS, or how does that work?
That's a good question. I'll have to get back to you on that answer, because where are you currently located?
Right now we're in Indianapolis.
Okay.
So we have about 2 years, but then it'll be another PCS. So I didn't know if it's another application process or it's a transfer, or...
They would, I mean, with the amount of openings that we have, I would think that as long as you're close to another regional office in the United States, that's something I think you would have to discuss with your hiring manager on transferring, but I wouldn't think that you would have to reapply or anything like that. Yeah. They do transfer people.
Okay. All right. I think, everything else was answered. So thank you guys for the meeting.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, Rudolph, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Rudolph Laws. I've been listening to everything you guys have been saying, and most of my questions have been answered already. I graduate this month from in Homeland Security from SNHU, and I had a really good experience here. So I want to give everybody prompts up for that. I had a really good academic advisor. I've talked to all the career counselors. They helped me build my resume. I started on my USA Jobs resume today, so I'm going to do all the other stuff. All those positions sounds really good to me. But my question goes back to what the one female asked about. I had specific skills. I was an electronic warfare specialist. I was an HR specialist. I did a lot of other things too while I was in the military. I'm retired law enforcement, so I've done a lot of different things. So just want to make Mr. Miller was saying earlier, how when they read your resume, how do they go about that? They read the first 5 pages. I just want to make sure most of the stuff I write on my resume is focused towards that job. And that's what my thing is. Also, too, I live not too far from the Lebanon office, Michelle, because I live in New Chipotle, which is about 40 miles from Lebanon. So if I was to get something like in this job, it's not that far. So I would work remote, but I could, would I have to go even a Lebanon job? Because you said there was 2 positions in Pennsylvania.
Well, I am remote. So our closest regional office is Philadelphia or Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So both opposite ends of,
Yeah, it's opposite. Okay.
Right.
And,
but it will only be 1 day a week or twice a pay period. So, commuting 1 day, I don't think would be too bad. I would probably say Baltimore, but because Philadelphia.
Okay.
But,
but sir, I would say to sort of try and address the question with the skills, that's where you're going to need to take that time and really look at those the specialized experience, look at those details on that job opportunity announcement, and then you have to show and how they're transferable, right? And how they align to this job. And again, it goes back to some of the themes that Michelle and I have been saying in some other questions, that don't leave room for someone to infer something.
Okay.
Don't leave room for someone to like start to like and haw. And what is he trying to say? Don't leave room for that. You know what I'm saying? Which means the onus is going to be on you to tie it in and to make that transferable. You know what I mean? Because yes, my goodness gracious, right? Like I've been doing recruitment, talent acquisition for decades now, right? Combination, private sector and federal government. And even the federal government is moving more in the direction of skills-based hiring, right? The skills. So if you don't have that exact title, right, then that should not be the be-all, end-all, and you're immediately discarded because you don't have that title, right? It's skills-based hiring and the experience, but it's on you, sir, to look carefully at that job description, that job opportunity announcement. Look at that specialized experience, and then you make that transferable skill and show how in whatever other experiences you're alluding to, you have that experience.
Okay.
Right?
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rudolph. Great question. Great answer
Very
there,
good
Jeff.
question.
So we only have we only have about a minute. I want to try and get to these. I hope we can all stick around. John, go right ahead.
Good evening. My name is John Samuelson, retired Army here in North Carolina. I did not catch where my regional office is in here in North Carolina.
Winston-Salem.
Winston-Salem. Okay. So my question is, we talk about all these things and most of my questions were answered. I will reach out to the military team with the SNHU to get my federal resume cleaned up. I've been on USA Jobs now for almost a decade. My question is there a specific bachelor's degree that we need to strive for? Because I'm hoping mine fits, but I don't know.
No, there is no specific, for these positions, for some of these roles that we're talking about, no, there is no specific degree. And again, keep in mind, so that's my first part, directly to answer the question. So no, there's not, it's not like, oh, you must have, a psychology degree or an English degree or anything. So no, that's number one. Number two, keep in mind also and pay attention again with these job opportunity announcements, these job descriptions, when you are going through and you are looking at specialized experience, pay equal attention to those requirements, because you're going to see very often it's a degree or the experience or a combination of degree experience. You know what I'm saying? So it's not going to be, you got to have the degree and then you also have to have the experience, right? For these jobs that we're referring to right now, it's going to be degree, bachelor's degree straight up, or maybe a year or 2 years of relevant, applicable experience, or, as I say, a combination thereof. So really important to carefully go through and dissect these job opportunity announcements, these job descriptions.
And make sure you upload your transcripts.
What's that?
You want to make sure you upload your transcript, because if you don't, then that'll disqualify you too.
Okay. Yeah, I've found that in all the jobs I've applied for with USA Jobs, and I've exceeded whatever requirements they have, and I'm still out here trying to get on. So that's why I'm just struggling. I'm not struggling, but I'm concerned that maybe I've done something wrong or haven't met a requirement because I didn't have the right education. So I want to make sure that it's not specific.
Right. I would say work with Southern New Hampshire folks here. Take the time with that job opportunity announcement, the resume, because maybe for some reason, there's something that someone who's doing qualification reviews is just not seeing, and they're not putting in an effort to try and make, again, it goes back to, don't leave room for somebody doing qualification reviews. Don't leave room for him or her to have to infer anything, to have to make any kind of mental leap and make any attempt to connect dots. Don't leave room for any dot connecting. You do the dot connecting for them by virtue of your resume, of tying it in, your experiences to what the requirements are.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question, John. Thank you. Dolores, go right ahead. Dolores, if you're here, you may be on mute. All right, let's go. Dolores, we'll get back to you in a minute. David, if you're here, go right ahead.
Yeah, real quick, because I clicked on the original email. So there was a handful of us that was in another session just waiting for a good 15 minutes, wondering what was happening in a Teams meeting. So when I joined in, we were already in progress. Is this gonna be recorded or anywhere to review after the meeting?
It is being recorded, David. Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Yep. Dolores, are you still here? I'm not sure what happened with the other meeting. I apologize for that, David. So I wanted to thank Michelle and Doug for coming on out tonight and a wealth of information that you shared with everybody. Again, everybody here, thank you for coming on out. Connect with our team of dedicated military career advisors. If you have any questions, you can email me. You should have my information in there, and I can get you connected with one of the folks on our team that can best assist you with your resume building and some other things. And I wanted to echo, obviously, Doug's sentiment in the beginning in regards to thank you for your service. Our veterans, our active duty, our military spouses, our other family members, thank you for your service and your sacrifices. And Doug and Michelle, I'll give you the last minute. I know we're over, but if you wanted to add anything else, go right ahead.
Just real quick, I put in my LinkedIn profile. I actually do use LinkedIn. So I do post out when we have openings throughout the year. So connect with me and you'll be informed.
Yeah, and I would just add, I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm not as tech savvy, so I can't get it in there as fast as Michelle did. But it's Douglas Miller HR. So that's who I am. That's my handle, or whatever they call it. That's my LinkedIn URL, Douglas Miller HR, all one word. And you'll see me. Yeah. Yeah, but it's been a pleasure. And really, I just underscore, get that resume ready to go, get those daily job alerts, work with Jim and his team here at Southern New Hampshire. And yeah, we want to see you. We want to see you all at VBA. That's the bottom line. So
thanks, Doug. I just dropped you in the box there. So
hello.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is Dolores. I figured it out.
Okay, great, Dolores. Go ahead.
I do apologize to everyone. I just got off from work. I got this code going too here. But my question was certification. Certification as far as psychology goes. I have volunteered over the last 20 years for in different communities where I've been, and I've been out of the military for 17 years. And I hate this echo. But did you understand that? Anyone?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. I could email of something.
Dolores, yeah. What's the question again? Just cut it
down
a little bit.
The certification, like LLC or a CCA in those areas. I just want to get a certification behind my name once I graduate in October.
Well,
So I guess, is there a certain specific certification she should get that might help her along to land one of the positions with the VBA?
For our jobs that we're speaking of specifically tonight, there's no certifications required. Yeah, there's no certifications, for any of those 3 mission critical jobs of LAS, VSR, or RVSR. Again, it goes back to the experience.
Education.
Yeah, the education or the experience, but certainly there's no certifications necessary. If you're talking about, and I can only say this, kind of as an outsider, if you're talking about certain positions in the Veterans Health Administration, that's a whole nother cup of tea, right? Where they do need professional certifications, whether it be in social work or obviously nurse practitioners and physicians and RNs. And, that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother conversation for other people, to be hosting that event. But as far as our positions that we're speaking of tonight, no certifications are necessary. It's either that degree or that specialized experience, as is indicated, on the job opportunity announcement.
Thank you, Doug, for clarifying. And Dolores, thanks for the question. Michelle, thank you for putting the presentation together and coming on out and joining the crowd. Everybody, thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
It was great.